I work at Glitch Productions. I'm working on the Amazing Digital Circus, but we're both working full-time jobs while doing this. During that interview, I described it, and he was saying, that's insane. And that contributed to me getting a job at Glitch Productions because they interpreted it as like I seem very passionate about animation.
Hi, I'm Sharp.
Hi, I'm Genus.
Welcome to 15 over 15, the bonus episode. The bonus episode, Genus, the bonus episode.
The bonus episode. We're at, let me get a live count. We're at 1,220 subscribers.
Whoa, that's crazy. So many subscribers. No, it's been a real journey so far. I'm super happy with where the channel's going. I don't know what we expected going into this project. I don't know if we really expected anyone to care.
And so the legacy only lived in our minds until this channel.
And like the handful of people who knew what it was, because like people were figuring out about it while we were doing it. There were people who just like showed up in the lab while we were working and be like, oh, you guys are the ones who are doing the films, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot, because like I remember like some other students were passing by and like some teachers, I guess they said, were talking about it too.
Yeah, just like random people kept hearing about it. It never escalated beyond that. Nobody ever reached out to us like, hey, can you talk about this on like the website? Can you make a poster or anything? The only record of it was word of mouth and us just like chit-chatting and talking about it.
How did you guys get into animation?
Let's start from the beginning. How did you get started in animation? Now, where did you start with all that?
Do you want to answer first, or should I?
I guess I can go first. I started animation back in high school. I had a friend who I was basically inseparable with at the time, but we were dead set on becoming animators, specifically like Sakuga animators. We studied animation independently for a while. We watched videos on YouTube by people like Taniko Pantoja, by Jeremy Polgar, and by Jazza, stuff like for Flash, a whole bunch of different things. Eventually, when I was making my way towards college, I was on Twitter and I wanted to get into Blender. I've been wanting to get into Blender for a while, but I didn't really have foundations in 3D. I was mostly a 2D person, but I saw a post on Twitter by a guy named Alan Parker who was working with Taniko Pantoja. If you don't know him, you should check out his videos. And he was working on a project called Nighthound, which was like a hybrid 2D, 3D thing where he was using some crazy lighting effects that I was really interested in. I messaged him. He messaged me back. We started talking about 3D and 2D and stuff. And eventually, he kind of took me under his wing for a while, and I learned Blender. I got a lot better, and I started making proper animated projects.
You've mentioned this on like several occasions before. Do you want to mention like your perception of animation before learning about it?
Oh, yeah. What I hear from a lot of people is that the way that they got into animation was they're like watching TV when they were a kid and they were looking at the credits and they were reading and seeing all these people who are doing this stuff. I never had that moment until like way, way later. It never clicked in my brain that people made animation. It never clicked that like, oh yeah, somebody sits down and actively draws all the frames and that's how it happens. So it wasn't until high school I met this guy and I started making like really stupid statements. Like I thought like Akira Toriyama made Akira. But I think I'm a little bit better on that. I still don't know half the names that I should, but at least I know how to do it, kinda.
Genus's turn.
So my story is a bit more of the cliche that he mentioned. It was as a kid, I would just watch things, and it was typically just I wanted to make things like that. I wanted to make things like Spider-Man. There's no one thing that made me want to be an animator, but there was this like tweet around like a while back, and people were quoting. It's like, show me the thing that made you want to be an animator. When I was young, I was watching Naruto. And there's this specific sequence, spoilers, Naruto and Sasuke fight. And there's this moment where the animation style completely changes. And I learned, many years later, I think the animation was done by like Norio Matsumoto. That moment has replayed in my mind many times since then. But yeah, so it's like things like that. Spider-Man, like my favorite parts of Spider-Man, specifically the Raimi trilogy, wasn't really like I loved it, the live action context, but like my favorite moments were the moments that were technically animated. Even if I didn't realize it at the time. Eventually, I think some of my earliest playing around with animation outside of maybe doing like a flip book was me going to MS Paint and like scribbling stick figures. And it was barely animation. It was at like 3 frames a second, and like it was the same pose, just like shifted over. But I had a YouTube channel. It's the same channel. I use MS Paint and Windows Movie Maker to like throw together sprite animations. Pirated my first copy of Flash. That's when I started dabbling more in digital animation. I did more sprite animations, just of better quality in that program. All throughout high school, I was practicing it. And so by the time I got into college, I was actually very frustrated with the first classes because they were just doing stuff that I was well familiar with, like a bouncing ball and stuff. And I didn't really feel challenged, but that was later addressed when I met a great mentor of mine, Chad Bradbury. So there's also one time like I made a Sans animation that got a bunch of views, and I'm still living in the shadow of said animation.
How did you meet?
So we're already on to the next question. So when we got into college, we kind of knew each other cursorily for, I think, maybe 2 years-ish. In that period where I was making my way over and I was chit-chatting with the community online, and then I was there, but we didn't really have a lot of connection at that point.
I would loiter around the labs and you were a worker there?
At Columbia College Chicago, there is the IAM department, or there was the IAM department. It technically doesn't exist anymore in the short time since we've left. A critical thing about the IAM department is the open lab that they have there, which is an open space for students to go and work and do stuff. Genus comes in, starts hanging out around the lab a ton, and he's really competent. He's really competent. I mean that in the sense he like knows what a computer is. So he's helping students out with like software and animation questions. And he doesn't work there at the time. He's just doing it for free. So eventually we're just like, hey, you should get a job. You should ask our boss if you can get a job here. And that's sort of like, I think why we worked together on 15 over 15 stuff, or why we started working together and wanted to work on projects together in the first place. And that's just because when we were in the lab passively, there would be so many times where we just sit down next to each other and we're like, hey, I wonder if you could do this thing in like Blender, or how you would approach this in 2D animation. And we sit there for a second and then we immediately just start doing it.
Just doing stuff, having fun.
There's something about the way that we interact with each other that makes it very easy to just passively start experimenting with ideas and trying new things and trying to push our own knowledge. That makes it exciting to work on stuff together.
And then, do you want to go into the next question?
We can go to the next question.
Did you work on anything before 15 over 15?
So, eventually, we did try to do a project together.
Yeah. The summer project.
And did you work on anything before 15 over 15? And there was some stuff, but this is the first thing.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had a name for it, so we just called it Subway Surfers. So we wanted to like make a thing over the summer, because art kids, film students, animation, they want to make their own short film or whatever. It's like, yeah, we could do that. And so we start doing it. We start loosely planning things. I don't know. It didn't really pan out. Scope creep and all that, I guess. And just limited time.
Lack of understanding what it's like to even make a thing like that. No freaking motivation, because it's not like a thing hanging over us. It's just like, oh, I have to tell myself to do this. There's no structure.
And structure is a big thing, and an external force to like put pressure on us. And so we didn't have any of that, because it was just like one summer. We barely got anything done during that summer. Just like some designs, some loose planning, pre-pro story stuff. But it didn't really progress past there.
Yeah, but that was just the first thing. Probably the most important project that we worked on together that really made 15 over 15 something that we wanted to do was a class called APS. If you want to learn more about APS, I did like a little video on it on my channel. It's animation studio production, advanced studio production. I still don't know the actual
Animation production studio.
animation production studio. Yes. But the premise of the class, in long and short, is just the entire class acts as a mock studio making a short film over the course of a year. I came in for the second half of the APS class because it's done over 2 semesters. And it was mostly down to Genus like asking me to.
I recall you kept seeing like just the stuff we were doing on Screenwriters, and I think it was a mix of like you wanting to be there and I wanted you on board. So we got an idea of like what it's like to work together on that. Basically, we were the 2 tech guys, and we could both like animate 2D fairly well.
The software we're working in is Toon Boom Harmony, and it has like a node-based compositing system. And I wasn't super familiar with it at first, but I'd done a lot of node-based stuff in Blender. So Genos is like, we need more compositing people. We need more people who can do this stuff. So over the course of that semester, for some reason, we just completely lose ourselves in the project. And, we're coming in on weekends. We're like building up workflows and just making it happen.
Just going above and beyond as the tech guys.
Yeah. I think part of it was a fun project with a fun story and fun stuff overall, but I think a lot of it was also just us bouncing stuff off of each other. It was fun to work together. It was fun to have somebody who was really, really trying to just like see what you can do.
Like we're 2 very distinct individuals, but we also have like this good amount of overlap where we're able to just kind of like have a similar through line. Like, okay, it's like if I want to do a script, it's just like, okay, I like come up with like a rough version, and then Sharp goes on and like expands upon it, improves upon it. No one else in the class would be able to do that, and I don't mean like they don't have the capability to. It's like it's just not there. They don't have the interest. Both of us, I think, have the similar superpower. It shouldn't be a superpower, but so many people don't develop the skill, and it's just the very basic skill of troubleshooting and going to Google to figure something out. So it helps a lot when we're just like doing things like, well, we don't know how to do this, but we can figure out how to do it.
You would be so surprised how much of our work as student workers and tutors is literally just sitting down and Googling something.
We worked on APS together, and then also, and it's actually, this is almost like a precursor to 15 over 15 because it's a very similar roles that we played. So I was working on my own film called Ashes. If you've been watching the series, there's 2 roles we usually play. One person is making 3D environments and assets, and the other person is animating. I animated most of my film, and I did do some 3D work, but the better 3D stuff that stands out, namely the lab. I really like the lab. But the lab where you really got to like have fun, I think it shows. Even though we communicate, there's also like a level of trust in the other to like, we don't need to micromanage the other.
Yeah.
Like I am given a task or he's given a task and we just go out and get it done. We don't really have to like check in too much.
I do kind of want to set this stage for something, because this is like when we start to get into how 15 over 15 even got brought up as an idea. When we were working on APS, I think in the last few weeks of the project, if that, and we were sitting down and we were thinking, okay, what do we get to do as students here? We basically only get to work on 2 films if we follow the traditional pathway. We only get to work on our solo film and the APS film, which is not even like wholly ours. But every other college that you go to, you're going to be doing a film a year for the most part. You were like, what if we made a film every week? That just grabbed me. I was like, what if we made a film every week? And I know you sort of said it in jest. You were joking around a little bit, but I just kind of took it and ran with it. And so the conception it was Genus's idea, but I ended up putting in a lot of the legwork to actually make it happen and make it like a directed study so we could have more time for it. The original proposal for 15 over 15 wasn't even 15 films in 15 weeks. Because we wanted to make it a directed study project so we could have dedicated time for it in our curriculum. So we had to make it in a way that would be approved by the higher ups. And the original proposal was just 5 films, from what I understand.
It was 4.
It was 4? It was 4 films?
Or that's what, maybe in the initial, like, I think maybe we said 5. And then when Jim got back to us, he was like, all right, they agreed to 4.
Who's Jim?
I guess we should answer a question that is kind of later. Who is Jim?
Well, you've had much more interaction with Jim even before. Do you want to explain who he is?
Sure. So Jim Rohn, he is the department coordinator of the now non-existent IAM department. I don't know what his title is now. He creates the structure for the degree pathways for people in our cohort. We were working with him on the project because we needed somebody to sponsor the whole thing. So if we're doing a directed study, we need a full-time faculty member to take care of the teacher side of stuff. And I'd worked with Jim on stuff before. I always popped into his office and just pitched him crazy ideas for this is what we should do here. And he was pretty supportive of the idea at first, if a little bit concerned considering the amount of work that we wanted to do. He was a comic artist. Yeah, he worked for Midway Games back in the day, and he teaches games and film classes at Columbia. One of the things that we originally wanted to do with 15 over 15 was have our segments with Jim where he's reviewing our films and talking about his feedback to them. And if you look at the early ones, the early retrospectives, you'll see towards the end we'll have a little Jim segment, but we eventually started cutting it out. It just didn't really work with the flow of the video. But the project as it is, it wouldn't have happened without his support, without the time that he allotted us. Very much thankful to Jim for helping us get to this whole thing. It's kind of funny though, because we were also actively in defiance of him through a lot of the way.
Yeah, he was often reminding us that we were only supposed to do 4.
There are times where he'd be looking at our films and be like, "Oh, this is really nice. So I like what you guys made. I can't wait to see what happens when you polish it." It's just really.
It's like, maybe an extra week, like address his notes. It's like, nope, we're gonna start again from scratch.
I'm gonna play the Jim clip that I can never stop milking.
The 2 students on this course are coming up with the ideas and completing films at a faster pace than any other students in the program.
A YouTube commenter, Enite, welcome back. Does the one short a week not necessarily mean sequentially? Like, do you guys take breaks between the shorts? Or is it like once every school week while school's in session? Or are all the shorts done and you're doing the BTS after? Congrats on 1K. Thank you, Enite. So do we want to let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, I guess we're gonna let the cat out of the bag. We did this like a year ago. All the shorts are done. All the shorts are finished. Originally, we didn't think it would be a great idea to like let on that the shorts were done because we had a pretty tight upload schedule. We were gonna upload like once every couple weeks, and we thought it'd be more fun to have the tension of like, will they actually finish the films? We wanted to do some editing when we were recording or when we were making the films, but it was just impractical. The amount of work that we had to do every single week just didn't fit any more stuff into it.
And this was another comment at another point. Do we have full-time jobs? Yes, we both have full-time work, which is kind of making it impossible to get these behind-the-scenes videos out every week.
Yeah, I work for an engineering company. I do animations for that. I get really busy sometimes. We've also got other projects that we work on. Genus is still working on Ashes. I'm still working on my own YouTube channel and my own films.
But we're both working full-time jobs while doing this. So I work at Glitch Productions. I'm working on the Amazing Digital Circus, also trying to get these videos up. Today, I was animating Kane, which means I can't use that time to work on 15 over 15 behind-the-scenes videos. But yeah, we did our grind. We did the absolute grind every week of making a short film every week, back to back. No, like you guys get it on like an upload schedule where there's a gap in between. There was no gap for us, no breather.
Yeah, it would be Sunday to Sunday, right up against each other. So this is a question from our friend Ciaran. You'd actually see his work if you looked at week 3. He did the eyes for the wolf. Did y'all come up with the genre, topics, styles during the pre-pro phase of each week, or did you go into it with a predetermined list of genres, prompts, or styles? What was the process for deciding the genre and style for each week? So we had a list. We had a list for topics and styles. Just to make it easier on ourselves, we didn't want to go into every week just complete blank page. So we gave ourselves topics that we would randomize and be like, this is what we're doing. And then we could pick from a list of styles. So we had a variety of different films. So we made sure that we had some that would be 2D, some that would be 3D, some that would be like VFX heavy. We would re-roll occasionally on the topics, but I don't think the topic really mattered too much, especially in the way that we interpreted. We interpreted the topics very loosely, but also like when it came to telling a story, it was more about the structure and how much we can give it than just a one-word prompt.
I think there was a little bit of difference between Sharp and I's goals for 15 or 15.
Yeah.
I think just like slightly. Mine was purely just like brute force. We get the experience of making a bunch of films. There was a bit differing on your end, I think, because you wanted to do a bit extra with it,
I think I wanted to, I was intent on trying to make them good, at least towards the beginning of it, and not just like make them. Definitely intent on challenging us a lot more. I think that's why week 3 happened.
Sharp's ambition, or at least willingness to wanting to make sure that we branch out, I think benefited some of the later films that are yet to be released, which I guess that leads into the next question, since you were talking a bit about it in the first week. What was week 1 like?
Week 1 was all surprises, which I guess isn't too surprising in and of itself because it's the first week. I feel like it's such an outlier, even in the context of the entire project, because somehow it was one of the hardest weeks and one of the easiest weeks.
I really tried to make sure I was only working on it during my time up on campus, and then when I go home, that's it. I'm not touching it. I think Sharp week 1 was taking work home with him.
I was. I think I was working like 14 hours a day.
Maybe a bit more. I don't. It might have been 17 at some point. I feel like I remember you maybe mentioning that number. I don't know.
Maybe it was a lot, but even with all the work, because it was at the beginning, I had so much energy. I had just so much drive, and I wasn't jaded.
Yeah.
So I could just keep going and going and going. It still came out surprisingly good for the first film that we did.
I was skeptical that we could pull anything off at all. But we did.
There was a bug in my head that told me there's no reality in which I do not finish this project.
So week 1 came with its own, because it's our first time doing it. So we didn't have as much of a flow, even though we had worked on some stuff prior. It was the first time we were doing something purely just us. So there was the aspect of our pre-pro meeting for that was our longest pre-pro meeting out of all of the 15 or 15. It was 9 hours, I think. It was your first time having to I guess speed run the modeling and rigging on my end. So I did a character design and Sharp had to adapt it. Is there anything you wanted to talk about that outside that hasn't been included in the retrospective? Well, I guess week 1's retrospective wasn't as in depth because that one's a different format.
I'm still relatively new to 3D in the grand scheme of things. I guess nowadays I've got more experience, but when I was doing 15 or 15, I'd only done maybe 1 or 2 actual character models, animation character models before that. Jumping into making the farmer character and the alien character, we started to develop a workflow in terms of how we would deliver assets, because with such tight turnarounds, we couldn't wait until I was finished with the character entirely before passing it off to Genus to do animation. And I guess that's standard in most productions, in the real industry world, that's what you do. But that's not something I'd done before.
Yeah, it's honestly, I keep forgetting that I technically modeled the barn and stuff because it was supposed to be just a gray box.
Yeah.
And then it would be touched up later, but it never did. And then I also forget that because I'm looking through the stuff right now, I also forget that I modeled the
ship is mostly you. The ship is mostly you.
Yeah. I forgot all that.
Yeah. If you look at the first shot of the week 1 film and you look at the barn, it's untextured. It's just a flat barn. There's no detail in it whatsoever. But you see it so quickly, and there's just like nothing happening there that you don't really notice.
Like we're learning on the fly. So like we're learning how much scope can we handle within that time frame. So initially the scope was, it was going to all be redone. Only for us to realize it's like we don't really have that much time. And so we tone it back.
The best films that we have, in my opinion, are the ones where we give ourselves the most room to do that, where we don't overload ourselves at the beginning to have a bunch of stuff. We allow the complexity to come in naturally as we go.
Yeah, starting off simple and then like minimum viable product, and then things sort of get added onto, especially with some of them where I think, see, I can't fully talk about it yet, but like there is one, right? One of our favorites. And I think that one, it's one of our favorites, but we also like finished early.
It's one of the longest. I think is it the longest? I think it's like 1:30.
Since it was so simple and we were able to kind of play around, like I could just purely focus on animation and you got like basically all the time in the world to sort of play around with the environment.
Our main requirement was not like this film has to be good necessarily. We just have to hit the render button on Saturday.
And finishing, is like, doesn't mean like it's perfect or it is the way we really want it finished. And it's like, can we like sort of just like pass it off? Like I don't even know how to put this.
If somebody who didn't
fully
see us make it looked at it,
yeah,
and didn't know like what our original intentions, would they be like, "Oh, that's neat"?
Let's move on to the next question. We can't answer it. Which week was your favorite so far?
Yeah, our favorite film has not happened yet. So
that being said, our favorite, we've kind of surveyed our friends. Our favorite kind of differs from some other people's favorites.
I will be putting a survey in the description of this video. One of the best favorite films out of the people that we surveyed was Week 8, Noir, which you should see by the time that this is uploaded.
Maybe our viewers have different ones. I remember asking a while back for some of the favorites by making a post.
Yeah.
Week 2 seemed to be one of some people's favorites.
We can answer which one was our least favorite, though.
Yeah, Week 3.
Week 3 freaking sucks. I like it more than I liked it when we were still working on 15/15, but it's still really, really rough. Additional context for why Week 3 kind of blew up. We just got off of working on Week 1 and Week 2, and they both went really, really well. Week 1 was a lot of work, but it ended up, turning out really nice. Week 2 was also a huge slog because it was our first 2D one, but it also turned out really nice. So we were like, let's crank it up a notch. Let's see what we can do. Let's push our limits. Let's be ambitious. You'll get more context from watching the Week 3 retrospective, but that was a bad idea. That was a really bad idea. It was the hardest week in terms of just sheer work, but like the least payoff.
Actually, as part of this bonus, you might be able to like show a director's cut, like because there was a bunch of like,
yeah,
it was like I think like a minute long and it got cut in half.
We had so much more prepared for it that we just didn't finish.
There's like a whole cut sequence of like a POV shot that was animated. The opening shot was disregarded
because we were fighting to get it renders done. We were fighting to just make that happen, like. Because I was very bad at scene optimization, and also we just didn't have a lot of nice computers at the time.
Didn't realize about saving the cache until like near the end or halfway through.
Yeah,
like more than halfway through.
The simulation cache. So every time the render crashed, we'd have to redo the simulations, which would take like an hour, and then we have to redo the render, which would break, and then we'd have to do that all again.
So another one from our friend Ciaran. How did you go about deciding on collaborating with other people on some of the shorts? Did y'all have people offer to help, or did y'all reach out to them for doing a specific task?
I think mostly we reached out. I think for most of it we reached out. We had some people who reached out to us who wanted to work on the shorts, but I don't think any of those really worked out. The ones that worked out were the people that we were like, okay, we need help from this person.
It literally was never a case of we can't finish the film without this person. It was just like, we thought it would be nice to like just have someone else be roped into the madness at least a little bit.
Yeah, either like we thought they would do a better job on whatever we wanted them to do than we could, or it was just like, this would be fun.
Yeah, and like we liked their work. We liked their work in advance. We actually had a list.
Yeah.
Bring up that list. So, because we can mention some of them
I'm pretty sure I know.
for the films that are out already.
Yeah, we have Monica.
Who's who's appeared twice now because week 8 should be.
She's a great layout artist who helped us out on both week 2 and week 8. We have Astro. Astro is really cool animator, generalist artist, and she helped us with. I think she helped us on week 8 and one of the ones down the line.
Yeah, one of our favorites with some look dev stuff. Ciaran, who asked this question, Ciaran did the texture for the wolf's eye in week 3, which is a really cool visual. There's also our friend Mena, who appeared in a retrospective for week 4. Mena did animation and puppet fabrication for that little claymation seal guy. Want to talk about Juno since you brought Juno on?
Yes, Juno. Freaking love Juno. So Juno helped us with the storyboarding on week 7, which is the most recent retrospective when we're recording this. And she's great. She's so much fun to work with. She's really funny. She's got like such a particular sense of humor. And every time I get to work with her, it's an absolute delight. Our biggest collaborator of all time, though, is Luksha.
Scoring these films, I want to have just like...
This man is a saint.
he gets them done really quickly, too. So that's a godsend.
I want to emphasize again, Luksha, wonderful. He's scored so many of these films, and it just would not be the same without his work.
For week 8 as well, I brought back someone I had worked with prior. His name's Chris. He did the sound design for Ash's episode 0, and it's like, okay, you want to do? Because I'm busy doing other stuff. You want to do the sound design for the detective stuff? And he's like, sure, and he did that, and so yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at this list. Yeah, Mel doesn't exist yet in 15 or 15 lore. So.
Mel does not exist. There's no such thing as Mel.
Behind the Galaxy, a friend of ours, good animator. So Behind the Galaxy asks, were there any major roadblocks along the journey that you guys felt, if failed, you couldn't get back up from? Or was it the friends you made along the way? Any major roadblocks that we felt if we failed, we just couldn't come back from?
I don't think there was anything like that, because the structure of it is inherently designed that like if one week just goes really bad, then we just move to the next one.
The biggest thing that if we failed at doing this that we could probably like never come back from is if we failed to make a film in a week, because that would cascade into all the following ones.
Yeah.
So like it was very important that like it has to like you can't like cross over, right? You can't like work on like finish up the one and then start working on the other. It would have been very messy.
Because you do it one week and then you're like, okay, this is fine. And then the next week you still keep doing it, and it just expands and expands and expands, and then you don't have any more time. And you need that commitment of saying, it's 12 a.m. on Sunday, we're done.
Anytime you're like carrying over from the prior film, like if we were working on week 1 still while working on week 2, that's less time to work on week 2. And with week 2, we needed that time because 2D animation is slow.
We've got another question from our friend Riker, who's a really good 3D modeler. He does like VR chat avatars and stuff. I don't know how much of his work I can show. He also does the like next time on 15 over 15 if you watch my videos towards the end of it. But he asked, what were the reactions of industry professionals? I wonder if they thought it was just as insane. And I think you have a good story for that.
TLDR, yes. They did think it was just as insane. All of our professors, right, that we had at Columbia, even if they weren't currently working in the industry, they had worked in it at some point. They all thought it was insane. You have that clip you mentioned with Jim, right?
Yeah.
Right? Jim was an industry professional at some point. Thought it was insane. There's an animator who works at Columbia. His name is Michael Nicholson, right? He's worked on Looney Tunes, I think Space Jam stuff.
Yeah, I think so. He's done a bunch of stuff over the years.
I remember at early 15 or 15 describing it to him. He's like, if you guys pull that off, I'd like to shake your hand. I never got that handshake because I didn't find, like, he saw it. I got too distracted and I forgot to ask him for that handshake. My mentor, my personal mentor, Shad Bradbury, one of the more like current industry people. So he's worked on like Clyde the Chance of Meatballs at Sony. He's more recently worked on like Inside Out 2 as an animator at Pixar and Elio, however it's said. He's got a lot of experience. He himself also thought that was insane. Industry people, yes, they think it's insane. I had mentioned I work at Glitch Productions. While interviewing with them, I had brought up 15 over 15. And Kevin Temmer, Kevin, you probably will never see this video because I don't think you watch our stuff. But if you do, hi, Kevin.
Explain who he is.
Love that guy. Great guy. He's very sweet. He's during that interview, I described it, and he was like, he also, I think his exact words might have been, "That's insane." I might be misquoting, but he's like, yeah, he thought that was crazy. And that contributed to me getting a job at Glitch Productions because they interpreted it as like, I seem very passionate about animation. Speaking of other Glitch professionals, so 15 over 15, even though we're not a big channel, we've made our way around. I saw in the chats of my coworkers at Glitch, some, without me saying anything, came across the 15 over 15 channel, and they said, let me actually find it. I'll find the exact quote. Yes, the answer to the question, yes. Even the people in the industry think it's a crazy thing to do, to try and make 15 animated shorts in 15 weeks.
Will you ever do it again?
Will you guys ever do 15 over 15 again? It would have to be like perfect conditions because it worked because we were in school, we had the time, we had like the ability to just sit down and be like, okay, I'm not going to do other stuff. I'm going to just like go into this and dedicate as much time as I can to it, or as much time as it needs, and just make it as good as it can be. Like right now, I've got a full-time job, can't really do that. Maybe if like life conditions changed, if I had like, if 15 over 15 was my job, then sure, I could do it again. But also, it was a lot of freaking work, and the problem with it is we don't really get the best films out of that kind of process. Like you get films and some of them are good, but you don't have the time to really polish stuff, and that's good and bad. It's good because you can just make things and not worry so much about the process and just have output, but it's bad if you actually want the time. Towards the end of the project, I think we started to be a little bit more keenly aware of the time that we had in a way that would have allowed us to take advantage of more time effectively.
You know, I'm working at Glitch right now. He's got his job, I've got my job. It's kind of impossible to do it in that sort of way again, unless it was our like 15 over 15 was our actual job. You know, we've joked around in passing that it might be nice, it would be cool if we could like sort of pass the torch, sort of like full on production. We now entrust some future people to like do it, and we document them going through it as well, their journey, and it would be a different dynamic than Sharp and I's. The most likely answer is no. But if, you know, Glitch, hey, my employer, you want to have another show of a different sort, still involving animation? We got this idea. I don't know, just maybe. Angie, if you're watching this, Angie, you know,
a very conditional no.
Yeah. What I want to emphasize, since it is no, this is sort of, since this is our special episode, we can make this abundantly clear. Once all our films and retrospectives are up, like, as far as we know, that's it for this channel.
Yeah,
that's it.
We're done uploading after that.
I encourage and entice to like try and share around what we're doing as much as you reasonably can, to try and like spread the word. So like that way, you know, if we get more people watching, they can go on this journey with us before it's over.
Yeah, and depending on how it goes, like that was a very conditional no. If there's enough interest, if we, you know, make enough money from this, if there's enough time that we can get out of it, it's like maybe we'll keep doing stuff. Probably not something on this scale, but stuff.
Yeah, because right now we're doing it for the price of free. So
we don't get paid doing this. If anything,
we didn't get paid to make it. We're losing money.
Yeah, we paid tuition. If you want to support us, please share videos around, talk about it, get us some traffic. That's all we really got going on right now. We don't really have like a Ko-fi or Patreon or anything like that. I don't think we need something like that right now because, like we said, we both have jobs. We both have income that we need to focus our time on.
Our biggest hope is that people can see what we made.
I really just want to see what people do with it. I've seen so many people like say, okay, I'm going to do my own 15 over 15, and it doesn't go anywhere. Like, somebody, please do it.
Yeah, we've seen 3 people claim they want to try it. No one has risen to the challenge yet. If any of you are even like students right now or have free time, you don't maybe have to do 15, but like I would love to see if you try and do like a short in 1 week sort of thing.
You'd be surprised what you can do, just like fully committing to an idea and just allowing yourself to just go into it.
Yeah. And you might be saying, well, I don't have a creative partner to work with. Well, if you can't find one, Sharp here made a film mostly on his own, and he did it in like 2 weeks, but so half the people, double the time, so it makes sense. And I'd say it's pretty on par with 15 or 15 quality, more or less.
Yeah.
If you want, I don't know if you want to, I don't know if
Lost
you want
applesauce.
Yeah. I like the film. I think it's fun. I helped out a little bit. Like I did 2 shots, but like the rest is all Sharp. And then this is not for the audience. This is for Jill. Let's do a test. Jill says she's a fan. Hi, Jill. This is our friend working at Sony at the moment. Jill was a director of screenwriters. This is just a test. Jill said they're a fan. Jill, if you watch this video all the way through, comment like pineapple or something. I don't know. Or like, just let me know you heard this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can decide whether or not you want to include that. I just thought it would be a fun job.
Maybe.
I guess that's it, yeah.
Yeah, much love. Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody.
Toodles.